All right, everyone, welcome back to another great episode of Beyond the Trailhead. This week we have an incredible guest with us, Katie from Sawyer, with products like you've probably been on the trail with Sawyer Squeeze and the other things that they have. But Katie's here just to talk about Sawyer, what they do, and just some really cool stories on the trail. So, Katie, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to talk all things Sawyer and trail and beyond.
Awesome. Before we're on, we were talking about how you got your trail name, which is Oats. So if I refer to Katie, either Oats or Katie, moving forward, y'all will know why. So tell everybody kind of how you got your trail name first before we go into Sawyer.
Sure. So my background is actually in geology, and I was always going to do the Appalachian Trail after I got that degree. And so on the Appalachian Trail, on my first night, I chose not to bring a stove. It was February, and I took back a whole packet of brown sugar maple oatmeal, just dry. I had broken my spoon that day at lunch on my frozen peanut butter.
Yeah.
My grandma endlessly teased me about my love of oatmeal, and dry oats was weird enough that it earned me the trail name. I also preferred it to chipper and sunshine, which were the other options.
Yeah.
I feel like I could not keep up the disposition of somebody named that. However, I could eat dry oats for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
oats is my trail name.
So I guess everybody's gonna now that they've listened to this, they're gonna go in their pantry and try a packet of instant
Only the
oats.
brown sugar maple. Do not try the apple cinnamon dry. In my opinion, it's trash and will ruin the experience for you.
That's awesome. Well, I'm eventually one day I'll get a trail name and maybe I'll see you on trail days, like we were saying, and I'll do something dumb and then everybody will finally give me a trail name.
That's how
So,
it happens. Yep, those are the best ones. But pick something
so
that you feel good about embracing. Don't let
yeah.
someone give you one that you're not excited about.
Well, maybe they'll call me Trip and Fall or something like that because that's usually
Aw,
what
that's
happens with
kind of fun. A lost and found is good. Kitchen sink is always fun.
me.
You'll find something that fits.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and just tell us a
Funny
little bit about Sawyer. I mean, I know a lot of people do know, what Sawyer is and everything else, but just give us a background of Sawyer, maybe the history of it, and how you got on the team.
Yeah, so Sawyer was founded over 40 years ago now. They were founded in 1984 as a first aid safety company, and have evolved into this water filtration insect repellent giant that everyone knows today. Um, they are family owned, based in Safety Harbor, Florida. So United States based. That's where HQ is. I am remote and I do a lot of our marketing. I manage our social media and our blog. So a lot of my day to day has to do with relationships with creatives, nonprofit organizations like trail stewardship organizations that we support, and lots of advice through the
Yeah.
inboxes, lots of questions and all of that kind of stuff, following along with people on their own
Yeah.
adventures. Um, but yeah, Sawyer donates over 90% of their profit to clean water work around the world. There's also
Oh,
some
wow.
really exciting research that's happened lately with insect repellent and permethrin in malaria research. And so it's expanded my work in some really cool ways, from coming from the girl who had 35 pounds that started the AT with iodine drops and um then learned about this little blue thing, a couple weeks in. And yeah, I coming from a geology background
Yeah.
after doing the Appalachian Trail, I realized I needed to pivot my life and do that forever now.
Yeah.
And looked at my backpack and the gear in it and reached out to the brands I was already using. So Hyperlight is one of my favorites for my backpack and my tent. And then Sawyer felt very natural. And
Yeah.
I was very much so just doing freelance for the first couple of years after the Appalachian Trail. I did a lot of work with the Trek. I was their social media manager for a while, as
Okay.
well as sharing my own trips on the Colorado Trail. I've done a lot of 300 to 500-mile trails since the Appalachian.
Yeah.
Um, but when Sawyer came on as a client, about 6 months in, I realized how much my work was expanding into this clean water efforts and just kind of how much they had to offer and I had to offer them. And I went full time with them within 6 months, and
Oh,
I've been with
cool.
them for about 4 years now as their community director.
That's awesome. I mean, I love Sawyer's mission and stuff like that, and I had heard about. I mean, I've had a Sawyer Squeeze and stuff for a long time and everything, but just heard about the mission more so maybe a year ago, and was super pumped about it too. Because for me being a wedding photographer, we donate a certain amount of our profits in the name of the bride and groom to a nonprofit over in India, where we would give plates of food and clean water to kids, and now we've switched to a local one since that other place has since closed down. But I think every company has to have a mission about them, not just, hey, make money, make money, make money, right? It has to be more than that. And I think Sawyer is, a great example of over 90% of its profits go back into saving lives, basically, right? So
Yeah.
have you seen it like firsthand? Have you traveled with them, I'm sure, and done some things? Kind of maybe tell some stories of what it is that Sawyer does? Or
Yeah.
first all, I guess tell everybody else who's listening kind of what a Sawyer Squeeze does. So that way everybody kind of understands.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're holding a Sawyer Squeeze or any Sawyer water filter, what's going on inside is a hollow fiber membrane. So basically, it's these fibers with really, really tiny holes that are removing the contaminants that are bigger than that pore size. Our pore sizes of Sawyer filters are zero point 0.1 absolute microns, which is ridiculously tiny. Other competitors in the water filter game in hollow fiber membranes go to nominal microns, go up to nominal or up
Okay.
to absolute. And so when you're talking about effectiveness being based on the size separation, it really matters how small
Yeah.
those pores are. So additionally, the fibers are really, really strong. And so that means that they're able to be back flushed really vigorously and the flow rate restored, which is the only maintenance that these filters need. And so in past years, I think, so Sawyer's been doing this international work since 2008, but only relatively recently, since about 2020, has Sawyer started kind of sharing this story. And a part of the reason I came on in the first place was to help tell the core user through hikers about
Yeah.
this clean water work and make them care essentially. And so what they did was took Miranda Webster, of Miranda Goes Outside, who used to do a lot of the video work for REI. Several of our ambassadors, like Jennifer Farr Davis, Heather Anderson, Whitney LaRufa, who we were just talking about before this
Yeah.
call, and sent them to witness these clean water projects in action. So Whitney went to Uganda with Heather Anderson, host of the Fastest Known Time podcast. Jennifer Farr Davis went with Darwin to Fiji with her family, and Miranda went to Honduras. And those latter two, especially Honduras and Fiji, those are some of our oldest programs. And so, like clean water programs. Um, our clean water work is run by our charity partners. We have over
Yeah.
140 in over 80 countries. And so Miranda got to work with Water by Women, and they were celebrating 15 years. And so she was able to talk to people that use their water filter every single day and
Yeah.
have for over 15 years. And they're there celebrating at this Water Woman celebration clean water with this
Yeah.
filter that has given their family clean water for all that time. And one of my favorite things is going to these trail festivals like in Damascus and Cascade Locks. And when through hikers come up to me and say, my filter's broken, it's clogged, I need a new one. I'm like, give me 2 hours.
Yeah.
We'll get it back. And then I get to show them, like, look, I got it back using,
Yeah.
various methods depending, but it's usually just hot water and vinegar and a thorough back flushing
Yeah.
that can restore those. And I love being able to point to these different stories and say, like, look, these people like take care of their gear and it's served them for this
Yeah.
length of time. Which is really incredible to be able to say. And you asked about my personal experience, what I've seen. I have not had the occasion to go on any international trips. However, that's kind of because I had a clean water um event to take care of myself here a
Yeah.
bit. So I'm born and raised in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm
Okay.
currently in Charlotte, which is about 2 hours outside of Asheville, but my whole family is still there. It means a lot to me, it's home.
Yeah.
And in fall of 2024, a Hurricane Helene hit the region, and Hurricane Milton also hit Florida, which is where Sawyer HQ is based. And so over the weekend that it hit, I was chatting with the Sawyer team at HQ. Kurt, the owner, overnighted hundreds of filters, like knew a
Wow.
pilot with a plane and
Yeah.
shoved it full of as many filters as they
Yeah.
could. And I met them at the airport. They were also shipped to my house. I built bucket systems that my family used for months.
Yeah.
Um, my grandma has a nebulizer that she needed to use for her medication, and they were running it off a generator, and they could only get clean water from the stream. And a lot of people in Asheville, even if they had water coming through the pipes, it was full of sediment. And
Yeah.
what's interesting is you can go on the city website and see what contaminants are in the water when there's a boil water notice. And we noticed like this is bacterial and sediment. And you know what removes bacteria and sediment. And so the whole thing was very whirlwind for about 2 weeks. We ended
Yeah.
up starting a program where anybody could reach out through customer service and have 12 filters sent to them to give out to affected people in the region that needed them. Like,
Wow.
basically no questions asked.
Yeah.
Um, Sawyer ended up donating over 24,000 filters, in that month or 2,
Yeah.
that the region was without water, and,
I had some
um
friends up there that were helping do cleanup. I'm not too far. I'm only like 3 hours outside Asheville, in the northern suburbs of Atlanta, and
Mm.
they went up there and they were telling me about how they had to drink filter water, and I was like, "Hey, I know that." When I saw pictures of it, I was like, "Hey, I know exactly." Well, it's weird when you see a company that you've talked to before and stuff like that. You're like, "Oh, I know that company." It's so cool that they're donating this and doing that. So that's really great.
Totally. Yeah, and I think a couple of thousand, insect repellents and sunscreens to the SAR teams because biting bugs tend to
Yeah.
flourish after flooding, and, yeah, it was and all of these connections that I had made previously or that Sawyer had previously in the region, it's amazing how they can come into play, like Jennifer Farr Davis, who's based in Asheville as well, she just happens to also be where I'm from. We ended up I ended up taking 900 filters and leaving them in her garage overnight, so
Yeah.
she was able to, uh, distribute them in groups of 50 or less
Yeah.
to groups going out to the most rural areas with
Yeah.
that were really affected by the landslides and that theoretically really needed them the most.
Yeah.
Um, and it's amazing the overlap that, like, search and rescue has with people that enjoy hiking in the hiking
Mhm.
community, and, um, yeah, it was as difficult of a time it was to see my home like that and the impact it had on so many people there, it felt good to be able to do something, and
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for Sawyer giving me the opportunity to do that personally, and also just standing by what they do anyway of
Yeah.
how much it really does mean a lot to them being able to donate and make a difference. And Kurt's whole motto is
Yep.
"There's no U-Hauls in heaven," and
Yeah.
so and he stands by that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when he eventually uh, retires or the
Yeah.
succession of the company will go to the Sawyer Foundation, which is all about distributing in the most impactful way to our partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
yeah,
No, yeah.
it's a
I like that motto because that's my family's motto is very similar because it's been like years ago we would our friends would try to like all hoard all this stuff and then we were like, why are we hoarding this stuff when we could take that money that we're going to just sit in a bunker for the rest of our lives and we can go out and like help a ton of people who are in need because I can't take this with me, right? So
right.
that,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I love
Um,
that. So going into Sawyer then from when it started. So now everybody knows kind of Sawyer and their mission. So now Sawyer is, he started the company and what what was the biggest growth spurt that the company had? Like I know that it's been around for a while, so I'm sure there were some ups and downs. Maybe you could tell us about some ups and some downs of Sawyer and how the growth happened.
Sure, what a good question. Um, well, our water filter, the Squeeze, came out in 2010, I believe,
Okay.
which was a really it's considered our workhorse model. The only difference between the Squeeze and our other models of filters is that it has more surface area of the fibers and therefore a higher flow rate.
Okay.
And can go longer between the back flushes theoretically.
Yeah.
Um, and so that quickly became a favorite, especially of through hikers, which is kind of our hardcore user that we really care about their
Yeah.
experience of the product because they're using it all
Yeah.
day, every day for months on end.
Yeah.
And I find it especially cool when, like one of our ambassadors recently, Akuna, he just had one filter for his entire Triple Crown experience. And so all
Wow.
three of the long trails in the United States, he was able to have just
Yeah.
one filter. And those kind of stories that come from having the products that can make it happen is really impactful from a consumer standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, and I think maybe the downs have to do with getting knowledge out to people about our
Yeah.
products. And so the rise of like kind of crunchy like parenting and moms and being worried about chemicals and that kind of
Yeah.
thing, I think has had some impact on how people perceive their repellents, like permethrin and picaridin. And
Yeah.
so I we value a lot of education around those things. And obviously the rise of tick-borne illness in the United States in the last couple years, but it's been a trend for
Yeah.
longer, has also really played into that. And I think we're seeing people seeking out true information more and
Yeah.
looking back at their own behavior and their own behavior changes. And as far as the clean water work goes worldwide, behavior change is one of the most important things that we kind of harp on or we put into our best practices when we're talking about like training the community or
Yeah.
people in the community, like what are the most important things they learn. It's behavior change, and it's not just like if you back flush your filter every day, it'll last you a lifetime, but it's also hand washing and sanitation around that
Yeah.
because that's not the only thing that's going to make you sick. And so
Yeah.
interweaving all of these like principles and knowledge and just I think the perceived knowledge barrier of these like relatively high tech gadgets or
Yeah.
like maybe unknowns has been successful for us, but also, a unique challenge um to face with just the nature of the products.
Yeah. I think what I've run into personally with any kind of Sawyer squeeze specifically is most people on trail, they just grab it and go, and they don't necessarily know how to back flush it sometimes. Like I was on trail with someone and they were like, it was like dripping out. And I was like, you just have to back flush it. And he's like, no, I'm good. And I was like, okay, well, you can sit there for an hour. I'm just gonna squeeze mine and go,
Totally.
and that education portion of it, um, I mean, it depends on where you are on the trail and how fast gets clogged and stuff like that too. Like if you're getting sediment from a glacier
Mhm.
versus just, a standing pond or something like that. But um, I think getting that education portion of it to people is is key. And like when you were saying, when you're at like, trail days and someone needs their filter done and they just don't understand necessarily. And it's a small, small, small percentage of people, but you still run into that. I'm sure you get emails from people all the time that are like, "Hey, this doesn't work a certain way." And it's like it's more of a human error than it is a,
Right.
you
And
know.
there's an art about telling someone it's their behavior as
Yeah.
opposed to it's a problem with the gear
Yeah.
in a way that they're going to listen and
Yeah.
want to fix it. And
Yeah.
I think specifically what's coming to mind is like an innovation that I think was very helpful for our products and through hikers specifically
Yeah.
was this little blue cleaning coupling, this little blue coupling that can make gravity filtering a lot
Yeah.
easier, like fully hands off. But it's also a way to back flush on trail. However, it doesn't achieve a high enough PSI to compare to the plunger. And
Okay.
therefore, it's not as effective of a backflush. And so I get through hikers that will come to me and be like, I backflush it all the time and it still
Yeah.
stinks. And I'm like, what are you using to backflush it? That
Yeah.
matters. And I love being able to like find that with people or myself. The problem I had most with filters before I joined the Sawyer team was I would always crank it down and like it has a universal threading size, so it can go
Yeah.
on any kind of soda bottle, a water bottle, anything with that 28 millimeter threading. And I like using it on a bottle, so I
Yeah.
screw it on and I would crank it down, which warps the little O-ring, the washer that's up, connecting the filter to the bottle.
Yeah.
And when that gets warped, it leaks and it falls out and it's super annoying. And I didn't know for years, like 3,000 miles under my feet before I realized
Yeah.
I was the problem. And all it needs to be an effective tool is
Yeah.
a snug fit. And so
Yeah.
I tell people like just enough that you feel the resistance and that's it. And
Yeah.
you can make one O-ring last over 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of things that like talking to somebody in person and being like, I made that mistake is some of my favorite conversations to have because I can
Yeah.
see the light in their head be like, oh, like this doesn't have to be a problem anymore. Like,
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. You're getting water all over yourself. You're like, why am I doing this? I mean, I used to do it with the hose in the backyard. I would just
Yeah.
crank it down, and then I realized, oh, the tighter I go, all of a sudden now I'm distorting the O-ring in there. Or sometimes my hose doesn't even have the O-ring because it fell out. And I'm like, you don't people don't think about those things. I think it's great for companies to understand too, like when you have a problem with a customer,
Mm.
to give them an answer because you know some customer. It's funny. I just watched, and I love chick flicks, so I just
Mhm.
watched. It was with Anne Hathaway and like Robert De Niro or something like that. Where she's like owns this clothing company in New York, but she's the CEO. At the beginning of the movie, she's on the customer service line and taking customer service calls, even though she's the CEO and they have 200 something odd people on staff. But she's giving them a really clear, nice answer as opposed to those times where you get those emails from customer service or from someone that's like, "What's wrong with you? You're an idiot," and then it you lose that brand loyalty because people go, "You know what? They're gonna treat me like trash. I'm gonna find somewhere else to get my clean water or my backpack," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do have to be harsh with some people because they do sometimes take advantage of the system as well, you know?
Yeah, there's a degree of sussing out who's committed to misunderstanding you and
Yeah.
who actually wants to, like, learn something, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard for a person to even tell that difference in themselves. It's like, "Am I learning something or is there something wrong with this here?" You know?
Yeah. Yep.
But thankfully, over 99% of Sawyer filters that have ever been sold are still in working condition today. We've had
Yeah.
a less than 1% failure rate, and so, we take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. That's cool, and I think that's a good point to make for people who are going out on the trail. If you're listening and you're like, you get a Sawyer Squeeze or any kind of water filter, any kind of gear before you go out on the trail, test it before you go out because you don't want to buy it and be on the trail. Even when you're on the AT and you're 7 days in and you stop by the store to switch out gear, before you leave, test out that piece of gear that you just picked up because you never know if that sleeping pad has a leak in it or something just from shipping or some idiot cuts open the giant box and slices the sleeping pad and stuff like that. It's
Right.
You just never know. So that's really really cool. So I guess my next question would be, what is it that, and some of these questions I know you might not be able to answer, so just let me know if you can't or not. But what's one piece of what's thing one thing you thought would be easy, maybe when you were working with Sawyer, but ended up being really, really hard?
Hmm.
You won't lose your job, I promise.
That's a really good question. Um, there's a part of it that just being such a small team, and working remotely has
Yeah.
its own challenges in communication, but also just I really value talking to people.
Yeah.
Um, I do feel like I get now after so many years with my knowledge being built up of like how Sawyer does things internally and also what it could be. Um, my favorite conversations are with creators and
Yeah.
nonprofits and like Sawyer Squad
Yeah.
calls where I get to talk about content and collaborations and making donations and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I do the there is a personal longing for a physical interaction with the team more than we have.
Yeah.
Um, but we have had planning conferences in Florida at HQ in the past. It's just that disconnect maybe between marketing and manufacturing when you
Yeah.
have a remote team versus, HQ has
Yeah.
its own challenges there.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I think that's a great point then to make is, when you run a company, whether it's small or big, these days we have a lot of remote workers. And I mean, I'm way older than you, I'm sure. And, I worked in cubicle world and stuff like that. And I loved hanging out and talking with people. But there's only so much you can do, through video and stuff like that. But when you get together, you're just like, it's like family, you have this great connect and then you have this energy that just pops up. And next thing you know, you're just super productive for like weeks because you've had that kind of human connection. And
yeah, well said. Yeah, that definitely resonates. Like after those in-person meetings and such, you really feel the motivation and like
yeah,
purpose behind your work. Like other people there
yeah.
with you. Mhm.
So I guess this could lead into my other question then. Like, how do you stay connected with the outdoors? You work with the outdoor companies, but a lot of times people, you're a construction worker, so you don't do construction on your own home. I'm sure you're not out on the trail as much as you would like, or how do you stay connected in the outdoors?
Yeah, I usually have one 3 to 500 mile trail per year that I will set an email signature for my annual romp in the woods and be gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, Travis, our marketing director, is fantastic and he takes care of everything from the Sawyer end when I'm gone. Actually, one of the first times I didn't have to post daily for a client on a hike was this break with Sawyer and being able to do the Pinhoti Trail last year. And
Oh, cool.
oh man, did that feel special. Because every trail since the AT for me, I have been posting daily for a client. And
Yeah.
that is just not exactly what I want when I'm out there, or it's not refreshing in the same way. And there was a period of
Yeah.
time where in my freelancing, I was planning what articles I was gonna do in advance. I was keeping the daily logs and posting them. I was thinking about what I could pitch after the fact, and I'm really thankful to be able to have this it's just me and the trail and my dog
Yeah.
again. Really, really grateful for those
Yeah.
opportunities. But that being said, I'm also grateful that I work remotely. And literally this weekend, I was in my Winnebago and in Georgia on Jekyll Island and visiting the sea turtles, but I was also able to come back and write my emails. So that was just because it was time for me to get out and do something different. I definitely am grateful for the opportunity to be able to
Yeah.
fulfill that desire in myself very genuinely through Sawyer. They
Yeah.
really do support, like, if I need to be offline, I can be offline,
Yeah.
which feels very human in a world that a corporate world that you come from maybe in other jobs I've had. It didn't.
Yeah. I was just in New York with my wife. She was doing a social media conference. So for those listening, my wife and I do another thing online. It's Asian mom, white dad stereotypes, and it's got like 118,000 followers on Instagram. It's kind of
Fun.
fun. We do all these viral videos and stuff like that. But she was there doing a social media conference, just learning a little bit more about social and stuff. And I'm watching all the people walk around this concrete jungle. And my wife loves the city, but loves that disconnect of you can go out in nature and go hiking and camping and disconnect. But that same thing, like you're saying, like it's a double edged sword because you're like you get to be out and do like hiking and stuff, but you have to also we also have to all make money and work and stuff like that. And it's not that you don't want to post for the companies you work for. It's just at the end of the day, after hiking, 15, 20 miles, it's hard to go, okay, I got to find signal or grab my satellite device out and upload for for a,
Yeah.
for a client when all you want to do is sit there and eat dry oats. So
Yes, you understand. Yeah, I found actually on this last trip, I do love writing and I love taking pictures and
yeah,
storytelling. The easiest to do to storytell about
yeah,
yourself and what you're doing. And so I found this last Pinhoti hike last spring, what I think is going to be my new system going forward, which was for the 3 weeks I was on trail, every night I would spend 10 to 15 minutes writing blurbs, like fragments of sentences about the day,
yeah,
adding the photos of that day onto a folder. And then when I got home, every day I was home, I would go back to a day on trail, extrapolate, like write it all out into a blog post,
yeah,
insert the photos. It would usually take like 2 to 3 hours and then post to socials. Um, but I did that for 3 weeks after I got back in a personal capacity. And
yeah,
that felt good. It felt like I was keeping something for posterity from the trip.
yeah,
I wasn't taken away from being in the diff in the moment. And it was a reflection tool after the fact.
yeah,
And nobody knew where I was, which also with
yeah,
rising, social media and such has made me uncomfortable before. And so
yeah,
uh that felt really, really good to me. I think
yeah,
I have a system that works for me now, which is
yeah.
awesome.
I think it's a great point you make too, just with being out on the trail or whatever you're doing. Like for me and my family, like we don't post anything until we get back into town, just because then my house is empty with my mother-in-law in it and stuff like that.
Mm.
Versus you're out on the trail, and next thing you know, people know where your next you know campsite might be because you're a certain part of the trail, and you don't you want to be safe and stuff like that. And I'm sure we've all run into our share of interesting people on trail that you're like, okay, let's just keep going and forget it. We're not staying here tonight because I think they're gonna kill us. Um, so yeah, I mean that's great. I love just doing those little snippets and then being able to write it as because you got to keep that memory fresh because you always think when you're hiking, oh, I'll remember it later on. But man, all those days compound together and you are like, what day did this happen on and everything else. So that's a great tip for that.
Yeah, and I love the magic of the mundane, and I think you lose that when you don't keep as regular notes because
Yeah.
I think there's something fun about that one time I compared the flower to the one from Hades Town or whatever. Like it's fun to like reminisce on those connections and make them important enough to write down.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's yeah, it feels good for me.
Yeah. Do I guess going skipping completely different sides of the plot just reminded me of some I just remembered something, but when I was going to ask you kind of like if there's like a moment or a customer story that review that hit really hard, but then it just kind of reminded me of um y'all had a while back, I'm not exactly sure when, but you had did like a collab with Canuck with the bag because I know like there was this thing where the bags that would come in my Sawyer, a lot of people would just kind of ditch them because they would leak because they were just weren't. I never used it. I just went straight to my Canuck, so I can't speak for whatever. But like what started that collab, or how did that work, or how do you collab with another company?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. This is like one of my favorite products we've ever come out with, is this Connaught collab. So, uh, yeah, so we are a water filter company. We are not a
Yeah,
water bladder company or a reservoir company.
yeah,
And so for years, people have been telling us like are using the Canuck bags anyway in their
yeah,
systems and showing us their systems, and we get all excited. Um, and so the owner of Canuck, Gilad, is a friend of the brand. We meet him at various trail days, and
yeah,
uh, it really was just a conversation that turned into a collaboration over time. We knew that it was a successful system. The bags that come with our systems were more so were I think um, ideally meeting the need that the retailers had for a complete
Yeah.
system. They
Yeah.
didn't want just the filter. I know a lot of through hikers specifically because they freeze it or break it or don't want to backflush it, just want the filter. But the majority of our retailers, because we're just wholesale, we don't sell directly to
Yeah.
the public. I guess we do now on our website, but at the time, that was a relatively recent change for
Yeah.
us. Um, that's what REI, Walmart, everybody wants is a complete
Yeah.
system. And so working with Canuck just felt very natural. They make these amazing TPU based bladders and reservoirs.
Yeah.
So we decided on kind of three SKUs that we wanted to pitch to REI, and they loved them. We have the smaller micro with a 750 milliliter flask. We have a 1 liter bottle with our squeeze, and then we have a 2 liter um, uh, that you could open from the top bladder,
Yeah.
and a lot of through hikers really use
Yeah.
with the squeeze as well. And um, I personally, I don't use gravity filter. I like being able to squeeze it through my
Yeah.
bottle, but I love having the additional capacity to camel up if I need to on trail for the additional 2 liters.
Yeah.
Um, some people just like having it on board with them, like the trail runners. And um, yeah, we've gotten really good reception. The majority of people that have talked to us about that have been like, "What took you so long?"
Yeah. Yeah.
and really, we're just grateful that it happened and it's out there and everyone's
Yeah.
really enjoying it.
That's cool. Yeah, I think people don't realize when you start a business and you go to retail that a lot of times, because I shoot for a lot of companies, and Costco has a different way that they want their images than Dick's Sporting Goods does, and so I have to tweak it a little bit or do a whole other photo shoot depending on the brand. And even company I was working with, they're the complete system like you're talking about. If you're trying to come out with a backpack, they don't just want the backpack, they want maybe some sort of navigation piece, something in it that makes it seem like someone can go and do something as a whole instead of having to grab a bunch of pieces and stuff like that. I think, which
Exactly.
is when you're starting a brand and you're going to retail, you have to understand that they are going to um, really tell you what to do, and you kind of have no say unless you're a huge player. But it's really up to that retailer to kind of tell you what to do. So I mean that's cool that REI loved. I think everybody was expecting it eventually. Like, hey, I think they're going to eventually do that. I bought my Sawyer like right as that transition was happening. And so I still have the regular Sawyer bags. I have like everybody have like gear tubs. I think my bags are just my Sawyer bags are sitting in a gear tub in case something happens to my other bladders. But um, that that's a cool little bit of info right there. Um,
hmm Yeah, you said it
so
correctly too. That's another common question I get is it CNOC? Is it Canuck?
it's
um,
only because I had Galad on here for the podcast, and I was like, so how do I say
answer
it
the
properly?
question
Because
everybody
you the
wants to
man.
know.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's Gaelic for mountain, which I think is very
Yes.
cool.
Okay, so going back to some stories, I guess if you could tell us, I know you've got a bazillion of them, but maybe a moment when a customer story or review really hit you hard. That was it can be negative or positive, but something that people can be like, oh wow, I had no idea.
Oh man. So many. Just the one that's top of mind because we were talking about it earlier. You mentioned Helene and like hearing
Yeah.
about people using the Sawyer filters. In Helene, through Sawyer's social media, I got at least half a dozen or a dozen photos and stories of people that were using their Sawyer filter in their gear closet to give clean water to their neighbors as well
Okay.
as for themselves.
Yeah.
And so they were able to like send me their own pictures of their setups and be like,
Yeah.
"This is for me and the 2 houses next to me." Um,
That's so cool.
and those were not ones that we donated, those were just ones that people had, which
Yeah.
is so, so cool that
Yeah.
it empowered them in that way in such a scary situation.
Yeah.
Um, as far as other stories that have felt powerful, hmm,
I mean, I know there's so
so
many with
many.
just because there's such a good outreach program that you guys have with everything. I think it just lends to why people, you know, need to, go with a Sawyer if you like it and stuff like that. It's almost like was it what's that shoe company that did like Tom's? Remember
Oh
Tom's?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like buy
right?
a
I remember
pair, give a pair.
yeah. I mean, I think I was in high school when like they came out with Tom's and everybody was wearing Tom's and we're all like, "Oh my gosh, let's get a pair," because then they give a pair,
Yeah,
And you
totally.
couldn't even find them at that point because they were just everybody was like, "Oh, I love the fact that they give back." So, I think like I'd said earlier, if you have a business, you really need to look at giving back to either the community or I know some people give like 1% back to Clean Planet and all these different things, but find something that's close to your heart and you'll be successful versus if you just find some random thing that you're like, okay, I'll just give this just to be a cliche give back person. You
Yeah.
really have to have that heart for it.
Yeah, and I think in the outdoor industry specifically, we have an obligation to give back to organizations that maintain our public lands and that
Yeah.
maintain our trails and the places that people are recreating. And so we are very happy to support a bunch of different trail stewardship
Yeah.
organizations. And that way, whether it's through like product donations for their trail crews to keep the bugs off of them, or it's for like actual cash for the year. Um,
Yeah.
really proud to share some love in that way to those people just because of the nature of the gear, how it's being used and where. Um, but that being said, I also love our kind of like motto is from the backcountry to the backyard. And I love hiking specifically because of how accessible it is. I know a lot of the gear isn't necessarily, especially ultralight, but when a hike can be a walk around the neighborhood and enjoying the
Mhm.
outdoors can mean playing in your backyard. I I really love that presentation of
Yeah.
how accessible it is for people. And in that sense, how empowering the products can be because
Yeah.
fighting bugs and water can be very big barriers for people to getting outside and enjoying the outdoors.
Yeah.
Um, and these products actually not only like take away that concern, but can empower you. Like seeing kids at trail festivals pick up our filter and turn it over and be like, "This is dirty and it comes out clean and I can drink this." And they're
Yes.
so excited.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing to see. And I have a background in I was a science museum intern at the Asheville Museum of Science in college. And I think that kind of energy has really stuck with me of like making people happy to understand how their gear is working and how it's serving them and that they
Yeah.
can trust it.
Yeah.
Um, just those are really countless stories
Yeah.
that people I have conversations about all the time in person
Yeah.
festivals.
I wonder if you can answer this question for me that just popped into my head from those stories because it's such a reliable product and everything. So how would a company that creates a reliable product sell more to people when eventually you just everybody has let's say everybody has a Sawyer and it lasts for forever essentially.
Totally.
How
You
do I get how do I grow my business?
you found the irony.
Yes.
You found the irony. Yes, it's I have said explicitly many times, I know this is weird to say, but you shouldn't need to buy another filter. If it doesn't crack, if it doesn't freeze, you should be able to bring it back. And
Yeah.
I think there's an authenticity to the brand from saying that, of like being honest in that you don't need to buy another. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. Use the one you have. I think that buyers see there's an honesty there that may be taking away a purchase from us as a brand, but is an investment in like the truth of it, you know?
Yeah.
And people's perception of the brand matters because of that, or it is affected because of that. Um, and in that sense, we're really grateful for the repellent side of the company because that's
Yeah.
something that's used up and you're
Yeah.
gonna need more of. And so I it doesn't necessarily detract from the business in a way that is concerning
Yeah.
because we have this other avenue of making profit um to, to give it away, make
Yeah.
money to give away money, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the motto. Um
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's cool. I think building that brand loyalty of, hey, we're honest people. We want to give you this product. And then maybe you create a product that is incredibly, long lasting, like a backpack. I mean, how many packs have people come out with and you're like, do I really need to, not saying you don't need to upgrade, but do I really need to spend another two, three, $400 on a new pack when the one that I use is perfectly fine? But hey, maybe they have an accessory that I can hold something in, or maybe they have a consumable that you buy. So you're constantly going back to that brand saying, hey, I'm going to get this, X, Y, and Z. I feel like for tents will last forever, but I go through tent pegs like they're just candy because I bend them.
Yeah.
I don't care how sturdy they are. I bend them and break them all the
Yep.
time. So I'm like, that's my consumable for a tent company right
Yep.
there. But no, that's really, really good. I think I worked with another company and they have a lot of things that last for forever, but they do have like a consumable. And I never thought about that. That's kind of how we run the photography side of us with specifically even more so the wedding side of it is we do the wedding, but we're honest with them. We give them a great experience, but then they come back because they're like, hey, we want to do family pictures as we grow older. Or they start a company and they're like, hey, you do headshots, you do all these different things. Even with the outdoor brands, we give them a great experience, give them what they need, and then give them more that they long for later on. So you got to see people something that they really long for still in your brand to keep growing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also that strange, I say strange, but I love them, group of people that maybe have the funds and not the care to really
Yeah.
if they have a clogged filter, they're gonna buy another one. They're like,
Yeah.
whatever, I'm just gonna buy another
Yeah.
one. I know I could fix it, but why would I do
Yeah.
that when it's $45?
Yeah.
So it's amazing the number of people that will come up to me at a festival and be like, just letting you know, I love your product and I get
Yeah.
one every year. And I'm like, that's great, but you don't really need to get one every year. And they're like, I know, I'm going to keep getting one every year. I'm like, okay, sure.
That's hilarious.
It's super
That's me
funny.
actually. I'm more of like, well, not necessarily. I still use I usually give it to my friends just because I have so much gear. So I'm like, hey,
Totally.
here,
Yeah. They get
you can use
adopted.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, we get that a lot too, which is it's fun to hear people don't feel bad about buying the same product over and over
Yeah.
and over again.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a positive.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, I think before I go into like our lightning round where I just ask you a bunch of random questions that you have no idea, um, if there's something that like Sawyer is, in the future, like do you guys have some really cool stuff coming out? Like what are the plans for or the legacy of Sawyer?
Yes, I love this question because I have something cool to talk about. So,
Sweet.
no new products on the horizon at the moment. However, in October of last year, there was a professor at UNC Chapel Hill, Dr. Ross Boyce, sorry. UNC Chapel Hill, who, without our involvement or knowledge, published a study in the New England Journal of Medicine. That
Yeah.
was a study on mother-infant pairs in Uganda. And it studied the impact of our permethrin on baby wraps and how that impacted malaria rates.
Yeah.
And it decreased them by 66%
Wow.
in the pairs. And so we obviously were very excited and have been in talks with that professor. There's more studies that are being done, but we are already working with some of our charity partners and to make baby wrap treatment kits that
Yeah.
hopefully um, we will be able to bring into the fold of our clean water work.
Yeah.
Because we're already there. We're already in the communities. We,
Yeah.
meaning the charity partners that we have. Um, the one I'm thinking of specifically that's uh, does a lot of work in Kenya, but also many, many other countries. The Bucket Ministry,
Yeah,
they are already teasing the Wrap Ministry,
that's cool.
as a whole like
Wow.
second part of their charity, and they're like thinking about this as a response to this study on our permethrin, and it's very, very cool to see the beginnings of what might be a really big thing.
Yeah,
What we hope will be a very big thing in preventing malaria rates, because
yeah,
the I don't know any of the statistics off my head, but the rates of children suffering from malaria, especially in Africa, the study was
yeah,
done in Uganda, um,
yeah,
are very high, and we know that our pharmaceutical grade permethrin is not going to hurt them. It's odorless.
yep,
They're not even going to know it's on the baby wrap, and it's going to keep them protected. And
yeah,
that's what's most important, and it's effective. So
yeah.
very,
That's great.
very, yeah, exciting news on the horizon. But you can read more about it. There's been coverage by NPR and Reuters and all of that on our website.
Oh, awesome. I mean, I've been around a lot of kids that have had malaria and everything else in Sierra Leone. Quite a few times I've been there in the rainy season, and the mosquitoes are out there like crazy, and you're sleeping under this mesh tent, and it sounds like an airport. Speaking of mosquitoes, um, it's like like literally, there's thousands of them just banging on the mesh while I'm sleeping. Going, oh my gosh, if I didn't have this mosquito net on me, I would be eaten alive right now. And those kids, they just, they need that health, and I think clean water and keeping the diseases from them is so crucial. So I'm super excited that you guys continue to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
well, great. Well, okay. Well, I guess I'm going to switch gears from saving children to hearing about hearing about you as a person. So I'm going to ask you a couple of random questions right now. They're usually one word answers, really, really simple. And then after that, I'll let you just kind of shout out Sawyer a little bit and where we can find you guys online. So, all right, here we go. First question, and probably my favorite one is favorite national park.
Smokies, the Great Smoky Mountain.
Really? Okay. Did you hear about that lady that just died on what's the cave on that one trail? It's not
Huge
necessarily a
Cove?
cave, but yeah,
Yeah.
she fell 60 feet and died a couple days ago.
Oh my God, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Wow. I
which
was at
is
Cage Cove
very,
just 2 months ago.
yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things that people usually don't die in the Smokies because there's not a lot of crazy cliffs or anything anywhere. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I love it up there. We were just camping. Found a place on Hip Camp that has this private property just outside of the Great Smokies, and it's just overlooking the Smokies. It looks amazing, and it was really, really cool. That's awesome.
Mm.
Okay, uh, coffee or electrolyte drinks on the trail?
On the trail, electrolyte drinks.
Electrolyte.
At home, coffee.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Yeah.
Early bird. Mm-hmm.
All right. Tent, hammock, or cowboy camping?
Tent. Tent. I
Yeah.
love my hyperlight trekking pole tent.
Yeah.
Unbound 2P.
I'll put that in the description. Okay, this one I love is worst trail snack you've ever tried.
Worst trail snack I've ever
Yeah.
tried? Oh man, it's gonna be cheating a little bit, but the apple cinnamon oatmeal, man, it just really doesn't do it for me. I think it's because I have such a high expectation from the brown sugar maple.
Yeah.
It just lets me down so hard. And it's always in hiker boxes. And so I'm always like,
Yeah.
maybe. And then I'm like, no.
Yeah, like, no. It's funny because the apple one is my favorite growing up. So,
It's my
you
partner's
know,
favorite. And I
that's
think he's
hilarious.
wrong.
All right, so what's the best other than the brown sugar oatmeal? What's your favorite trail snack?
My favorite thing that I've indulged in, I've allowed myself on trail is the 1 pound packets of sugar cookie mix from Dollar Generals. And I literally, this is insane. I bought a pot on the Appalachian Trail so I could
Yeah.
mix it at night and eat it as dinner with a spoon in liquid form.
You're a true through hiker.
True hiker trash, yes.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Yes, indeed.
Um, all right. What's if you could collab with any brand, who would it be and why?
If I could collab with any brand, who would it be? Well, Canuck is already amazing.
Yeah.
Um, ooh, brand meaning gear manufacturer?
Yeah, gear manufacturer, maybe like I don't know, electrolyte drink you guys want to throw in a pack so you can mix water with it or something like that. I have no idea.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Well, Rec Pack, just because it's coming to mind. Rec Pack, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with theirs. They make
Yeah,
some
yeah.
really fun dehydrated meals, and I
Yeah.
tried some on my recent Pinhoti hike. I actually went back and did sections this
Yeah.
winter and had their like chai latte, and
Yes, the
it's
vanilla chai is really good.
ridiculously good.
Yeah.
And their packaging has a 28 millimeter threading. So in the event you needed a Sawyer bag for any reason, you could
Yeah.
use that as your journey.
That's good. I like that. I'll tell them that.
Mm.
All right. So I guess my second to last question is what's one outdoor skill that you still kind of suck at?
Navigation. Navigation. When I was a kid, the way I got into the outdoors was a nonprofit focused on getting kids outside because my family wasn't
Yeah.
very outdoorsy. And they taught us maps and compasses, they taught us bearings. We learned. And then
Yeah.
getting on trail, I've never turned back from just walking down the trail. Um, and God forbid I ever have to navigate again. Um, that's kind of I mean, I'm just terrible at it in daily
Yeah.
life, but if I have to, I can. There was one
Yeah.
hike I did a couple years ago, the Appalachian High Route, that I had to get Caltoco, tracks and kind of,
Yeah.
like, puzzle piece them together, and then kind of follow along on my phone, but they're, like, wasn't far out, and so that was difficult. That was a bit of a stretch for me.
Yeah. I there was someone who just got lost in Yosemite of all places, and he did the right thing, which usually you go walking all over the place, and he was like, "I'm just gonna stay still until someone knows that I'm missing." And they found him like 6 days past due, and he was totally fine because he had rationed his food and everything else. But he just stayed
Wow.
there until finally someone found himself a nice spot and everything else. But that's my one fear is getting lost, and I have so many. I guess I'm the opposite. I have really good sense of direction, but,
Mm.
when my wife's out there, she's just following me around, like, "Please don't lose me because 'cause I'll just get lost." But when she's
Yeah.
by herself, she's completely fine, but when she's with me, she's like a blind puppy is what she always says. She's just kind of
Aw.
following me around, so, um, alright, last, well, second to last, what's the last thing you Googled or chatted about, related to your business?
Well, yesterday was April Fools, so the one that's coming to mind for me, which I chatted with Travis about because he is on Reddit and kind of
Yeah,
like keeps an eye on the ultralight communities and stuff. The Reddit thread lava lamps, somebody posted, they post relatively frequently
yeah,
about using a Sawyer filter to filter your lava lamp. Um, Let me be very clear. Do
yeah,
not use it to drink water after you do this.
yes,
However, it's a really good use for somebody that's like, I'm never going to use that filter again. It's
yeah,
frozen, whatever. And there's this whole thread about filtering your lava lamp fluid, and there's before and after pictures. And you can go on Instagram right now because I
no
posted
way.
yesterday. This is not a
Yeah,
joke. People do this. Here's what it looks like. And so that was kind of a fun little
wow,
uh, April Fool's adjacent content from yesterday that, Travis
that's
put together.
really interesting.
Isn't that fun? Super unique.
That's crazy. Okay,
They
and the
love us over there.
last question is, one word that your team would use to best describe you.
Me, personally? Um, Enthusiastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
chipper.
Jupiter, right? Enthusiastic.
Yeah,
The time that I give, I am here 100%.
yeah,
Um, I'm not always here. Sometimes I'm in the woods, but
yeah. but you're always
But
giving 100. So
yeah, yeah, because it helps that the work is so purposeful. It
yeah,
really, really does.
that's cool.
Yeah, writing I
Yeah.
mean, last month I got to highlight 3 of our women ambassadors doing absolutely incredible things. Heather Anderson just wrote a book. Zelza Nakatelli is pioneering the Baja Sierra Trail, which is Mexico's first long-distance trail, and Katie Spots is preparing for a row of the Pacific Ocean,
Wow.
to raise clean money for Fiji, and she is going to visit the Fiji Clean Water Program in the next 2 weeks. So
Wow.
there was that, and then World Water Day was last week, which the
Yeah.
theme was water and gender, and so got to do a whole exploration about um, the implications of water work on women worldwide and
Yeah.
the kind of unequal distribution of work in that, and yeah, and highlight some of our charities that focus on empowering women with clean water.
Yeah.
Um, so you can tell I am very enthusiastic because it's such cool stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, how could I not be?
Yeah. You have to, I mean, you have to be excited about what you do. And I think when you're excited and you get people like you on the team that are super excited,
Mm.
like your business grows exponentially as
I
opposed to
think
just literally.
I
So
think the customers realize it too. They're
yeah.
like, "This girl's been here for 4 years and she's still just as excited about these,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
insect repellents and water filters." Like, I hope that says something.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Katie, thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate all the stories and learning so much about Sawyer. And I'm sure everybody learned a lot more about the company and just kind of, how to grow their own business and stuff like that. So if people are looking for Sawyer, I know you gave us a code for Beyond the Trailhead. So if you're listening, you use code Beyond20 to get 20% off on Sawyer's website with certain things. And how can we find you guys online?
Yes, at Sawyer Products across all of your social platforms, Sawyer.com, SawyerFoundation.org if you'd like to learn more about our foundation, or you can make a donation or recurring or one time. You can choose what region of the world that goes to, or you can choose baby wraps for the permethrin research that's going on. And yeah, those are the main places to find Sawyer. I'm
Perfect.
in all of the inboxes on the social platforms. So, if anybody has any questions, whether it's about anything we talked about or that filter that they found in their, gear closet from 5 years ago, uh, feel free to hop on and say hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Beyond the Trailhead again this week. And we look forward to next week. And Katie, again, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll see you on the trail or at Trail Days.
Yeah, that would be so amazing. Please come say hi. Give my dog a pat. I'll give you a filter.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Bye.
Thanks, Craig. Bye.